All right, I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahawah, Ba'ashem YAHAWASHI, Ba'ashem, RAWCHAA QADASH. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Concerning Meat. Now, this lesson comes through inspiration of a lesson, or actually a comment that a brother by the name of Humble Lion left, and he asked if we could do a video concerning the big doctrine in Israel now that we're not supposed to eat meat. He said they go to Genesis before the fall of man to justify it, and they only deal with the book of Genesis, I believe, if I read his comment correctly. Well, if they only deal with the book of Genesis, then they're going off just right there alone. Now, I will say this: if you don't want to eat meat and you want to be vegetarian, vegan, plant-based, whatever you want to call it, there's nothing wrong with that. But you're going to run into a problem when it comes time to keeping the Passover. And if you want to be a meat eater, there's nothing wrong with that either. So either way, you're not going off. If you want to eat meat or if you don't want to eat meat, that's your preference, that's your choice. We were not set here to judge each other based off of that, because that's a moot issue. Look that word up. The bottom line is, if you don't want to eat meat, don't eat meat. If you want to eat meat, then eat meat. Just as long as it's lawful meat. And that is like the ultimate bottom line, so to speak. And they are correct. You go back to the beginning, the Adamites, the people back then, they were only eating plant-based things. They were eating fruits and vegetables, different greens and, different fruits, things of that nature. And that's all that was being consumed back then. All right. So we're going to get a couple of precepts based off of that. And then we're going to get into the next part of it, of the meat, the actual flesh of animals, lawful animals, that is. So let's go to Genesis, the first chapter. And let's go to the 9th verse. We're going to read a couple of verses and then jump around a little bit. This is Genesis chapter 1, verse 9. It says, "And the power said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so." And this is when the earth was created. The land and the waters was created, should I say. And, well, it'll get into it more. It says, "And the power is called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he sees, and the power saw that it was good." Yeah, because it was according to the plans of Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahawashi. It says, "And the power said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so." And this is why every fruit, vegetable, things of that nature, all has seeds. They all have seeds, because that's the way the Lord created it. So when you create seedless grapes or seedless watermelons, that is not the fruit that the Lord created. Those are hybrids, those are GMOs. They've been manipulated to not have seeds. But it was supposed to be, every fruit out there and every vegetable out there is supposed to have seeds in it. Even bananas themselves have seeds in it. So every fruit is supposed to have seeds in it. And we technically not supposed to eat anything that's seedless. But if there's nothing else out there, you got this bunch of seedless grapes to eat, what are you gonna do? It's better than eating a candy bar, inside joke, but it's the truth. Just leave it up to this devil, he'll destroy everything. So everything has a seed. All right, so the Lord gave us the grass. He gave us the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind. And you're not supposed to mix apples and oranges together and make a, apple orange or whatever the hell you want to call it. You're not supposed to do that. And Esau does that. He creates these monster fruits. There was a point that came to mind that kind of escaped me right now. If it comes back, I'll bring it out. But all right. So it goes on to say, and the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind, and the power saw that it was good. Yeah, because you're not supposed to mix seeds. I believe that's in the book of Deuteronomy 22, if I'm not mistaken. You're not supposed to take any DNA from anything and mix it with anything else. You know, like you have, you know, these frankenfoods, you know, they say they had strawberries, and because strawberries are so tender, if the frost hits them, you know, they tend to go bad or something along those lines. So they mixed it with different fish particles or some crap like that so that it could withstand the frost. You know, you ain't supposed to do that, man. There's a reason why everything is in the order that it's in. But these devils do it because, you know, they go against the Most High. You know, they make these frankenfoods, and they know that those frankenfoods that are manipulated do not break down in the body. So what does the body do? It stores it as fat to use for energy, because it doesn't know what else to do with it, because the body does not recognize these different types of foods that are GMOs. The body itself, the mechanism itself, if you say that there's no God, then you're a bugged out individual. All you have to do is just look at the mechanism of the body, the complexity of the body, just in the digestive system and the brain alone. And that should let you know that there is a power, there is a God up there, an intelligent being, an intelligent source to create such a complex machine as the body. You know, and as effed up as this world is, as polluted as the water is, as polluted as the air is, as polluted as the food is, you know, as much junk that goes into our system and breaks the body down, the body still is resilient and still functions, you know, still functions properly, you know, until it breaks down, because after a while it gets overwhelmed. But Barakatah YAHAWASHI, that he keeps his hedge around us, you know, that he may, you know, always protect and keep us healthy to be able to do this work, you know. So it goes on to say, and the evening and the morning were the third day. So in the 3,000th year, this was created. Remember, the time, Heavenly Father's time and our time is two different time frames. A day with the Lord is 1,000 years to us. You know, so what it took the Lord one day to do, it would take us 1,000 years to do. So you could understand. Now what we're going to do is we're going to jump down to the 29th verse, because we read that these fruits and vegetables and grass and things of that nature were created. You know, and the grass, oh, that's what I was going to say. This lady, I'm not sure what type of grass it was, if it was barley grass or wheat grass or whatever it was. You know, she had gangrene in both legs. And I'm not, this is not medical advice. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving any medical advice. I'm just relaying what I've read. And she had gangrene on both legs. She started drinking grass juice. I'm not sure what type, but it was some type of grass juice that had chlorophyll in it, and it reversed the gangrene in her legs. So she was able to save her legs just by drinking grass. Like I said, I'm not a medical doctor. This is not medical advice. This is just something that I read that I'm just sharing. All right, so when we jump down to the 29th verse, it says, and the power said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth. So all of these fruits and vegetables and things that have these seeds in it, this was given to us to consume. And that was our food back before, you know, man fell, which is true. It says, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. So that was our food. And this is why sometimes, you know, when you have certain ailments and you go plant-based, it does help, you know, help the body in recovering, you know, help the body in healing itself, because what it does is it gives the digestive system a break. It gives the digestive system a break, you know, so that by eating these vegetables, and sometimes they get into actual food. I'm sorry, actual. That ain't messed up. They get into actual drinking of just drinking juices, because you could still get the nutrients out of those juices and give your digestive system a break. Because when the digestive system spends too much time breaking down food, it can't spend more time healing the body. You see? And that's why sometimes brothers might go on a fast, and, or you know, they might just do a juice fast, you know, or something like that for a couple of days, or whatever the case may be, you know, just to give their body a break. So it is true from the beginning. That's how it was. We go to Psalms, the 104th chapter. And the 14th verse. He said, he causeth the grass to grow for the cattle, and herb for the service of man. And that's not talking about smoking a chalice. Because if it was, it would have said somewhere in the scriptures, it would have had prophets, you know, or men of the Lord, or men in general smoking, you know, some type of herb. You never read anything from Genesis all the way to Revelation where in thus that day did they light a spliff, you know, and smoke, you know, smoke one of them, you know, and it healed their cataracts, their cataracts. Inside joke. He caused the grass to grow for the cattle, and herb for the service of man. See, so the herbs are for the service of man, that he may bring forth food out of the earth, because that's what we eat. You know, we ate fruits and vegetables back then. We were plant-based. It says, and wine that maketh glad the heart of man, and oil to make his face to shine, and bread which strengtheneth man's heart. So we did eat plant-based things. There was bread, you know, different things that were made out of different grains and all of that, you know. So let me see something. All right, let's move on. Now let's go to Acts 14. Just giving you a couple of scriptures where things were plant-based. Diets were plant-based. And if you, excuse me, suffering from any type of, you know, sickness or whatever, you know, you may want to do plant-based, you know, for a while to try to, you know, help your system recover. All right, this is Acts 14 and 17. It says, nevertheless, he left not himself without witness, in that he did good, and gave us rain from heaven, and fruitful seasons, filling our hearts with food and gladness. Yeah, and that's what he did. Plant-based. The last one I got on that particular subject is in the book of Daniel, the first chapter. You could go on for days with that, just that one particular one alone. Let's go to Daniel chapter 1 verse 8. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, which was actual, you know, the dainties, you know, the lard, the fat, you know, which consisted of meats and carbs and things of that nature. It says, nor with the wine which he drank, therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now the Most High had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. And this does not mean that they were homos, because you get these flaming flamingos, you know, that'll see that, see, tender love with the eunuch. First of all, the eunuch was a eunuch. The eunuch wasn't having sex. There's a reason why he was a eunuch. He could have had his rod chopped off, you know. So that did not mean that they had a homosexual relationship. That means that you have a connection that men make as brothers, you know, and there's a strong bond there, you know, and it has nothing to do with sex. That's why it's different than the love that a man has for a woman, because the love that a man has for a woman, they bond with the act of sex, and it's a total different type of love, you know. It says, and the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse liking than the children's which are of your sort? Then shall you make me endanger my head to the king. Then said Daniel to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, prove thy servant, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat. And the pulse is vegetables. You know, when you look it up, it's vegetables that are sown. You know, there could be fruits in there. That's all part of the pulse. Greenery. You know, you can have root vegetables. It says to eat and water to drink. Then so their diet was plant-based. It says, then let our countenance be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the children that eat of the portion of the king's meat. And as thou seest, deal with thy servants. So we consented to them in this matter, and proved them 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. Thus Melzar took away the portion of their meat and the wine that they should drink, and gave them pulse. So he gave them just vegetables. Now, did Daniel and them eat meat? Of course they could have eaten meat. And I'm sure they had eaten meat prior to being in that captivity. But the point was, they didn't want to defile themselves with the king's meat. So they decided to go vegetarian or vegan, or however you want to put it, plant-based. You know, with some of you individuals out there that are into that plant-based, you're eating these Beyond Burgers and all that other stuff, and you don't know what the hell that is. Those are all chemicals, you know, put together. You know? So you got to be careful with that. You don't know what the hell is in that. You know, but you're looking down on somebody because they're eating a burger and you're eating a Beyond Burger, but that Beyond Burger could be worse for you than that hamburger that the brother might be eating. And that's the point. If you are a plant-based individual, don't be looking down on brothers that eat meat. Because you get individuals out there that get self-righteous. Well, I'm plant-based, you know, I don't eat that meat. And then they look down on people that eat meat. So if you are the individual that has a plant-based diet, don't be looking down on brothers that eat meat. Likewise, you brothers that eat meat, don't look down upon the brothers that are plant-based. But you brothers that are plant-based, sisters that are plant-based out there, you're going to run into problems when it comes time to keep the Passover, because you have to eat lamb. And you have, I don't know if it was at IUIC that gave their congregation plant-based lamb or some crazy shit like that. I believe it was IUIC, if I'm not mistaken. That's totally off, man. And this is why these guys have no fear of the Lord. They do whatever the fuck they want to do. Whatever the scriptures say, they do whatever the fuck they want to do. ISUPK, they keep the Passover whenever the fuck they want to keep it. They don't keep it according to the Lord, you know, or the way the Lord said keep it. They keep it as a matter of convenience and not as a matter of the fear of the Lord. You know? So any of you out there that's eating some goddamn plant-based lamb for the Passover, you ain't keeping the Passover. Because that's not the ordinance of the Passover. All right? Now we're going to get into the meat eating. All right? And I wanted to say this, man. This is burning in my spirit since earlier, since I was on my way here. I want to say this to you, Vocab, from the bottom of my heart, man. Vocab, you a paper champion, man. You ain't never the paper tiger, man. So like, it's an inside joke. It's just something that was playing in my head earlier. I've been dying to say it. So I just wanted to say it, you know. But this is the book of Genesis 9:1, and this is for the meat eaters. I'm going to give you a little story. Gary Knoll, I believe, was the one that was going into this. And he was going, I believe it was him, or it could have been somebody. It could have been George Gordon or one of them talking heads back then. But they were telling the story of two brothers that were brought up in the country. They both were brought up, eating meat, you know, biscuits and all that stuff. And then the one brother decided to go vegetarian, you know, because he was talking about, you know, the sicknesses and things that come from eating meat and things of that nature. But the other brother kept eating meat, you know. And eventually the one that was vegetarian, he ended up catching cancer and dying. And the brother that was eating meat was still alive, you know? So that just lets you know, look, if it's your time to go, you're gonna go. Baba, when it's your time to go, you go. Inside joke. But it's the truth, you know? So don't be overly consumed in thinking, that if you eat a plant-based diet, you're gonna be more healthier than a brother that eats meat. It all depends on the spirit of Yahawah B'Shem El Shai. Remember, he said he wounds and he heals. You know, he causes sickness to come upon and he also heals sicknesses. All right? Because unto the Most High belongs the issues from death. So this is Acts, Genesis 9:1. And the powers blessed Noah and his sons and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. Because this was after the flood. And Shem, Ham, and Japheth were going to replenish the earth. Okay? And prior to this, men did not eat, flesh of animals. It says, and this is in the book of Genesis, since people like to just deal with the book of Genesis. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand are they delivered. Here's a point. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you. Even as the green herb have I given you all things. So the Lord gave meat, flesh of animals also to eat with the vegetables. And that's why there's supposed to be a balance in your diet. You're supposed to eat meat and starches and things of that nature, but you're also supposed to eat your vegetables, your greens, your salads, so on and so forth. So there's a balance to everything. So I wonder what these guys say about this. Oh, that's after the fall of man. Yeah, but the point is that the Lord said you could eat meat. Now, if you want to be plant-based, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to eat meat, there's nothing wrong with that. So it goes on to say, but flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall you not eat. In other words, you're not supposed to drink animals' blood. You're not supposed to cook your meat medium rare, still have blood dripping out of it, because that's the life, and the Lord said if you do that, you'll be cut off from your people. So you ain't supposed to be eating no medium rare steaks, no medium rare lamb chops, no medium rare burgers. It's supposed to be cooked all the way through. Bottom line. All right, so now let's go from there. Let's go to Leviticus, because he said every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you. But there's a reason. See, a Christian read that and say, oh, so you could eat pork. There's a reason why the Lord told Noah to take of the unclean animals. There's a reason why there's unclean animals and clean animals. Of the unclean animals by 2, the male and his female, but of the clean animals by 7s, the male and his female. So when Noah entered into the ark, you had of every pig and every unclean thing, it was 2, the male and the female. Of every clean animal, venison and things of that nature, you had 14, 7 male, 7 female. Why was the proportion so much bigger of the clean animals than the unclean animals? Well, first and foremost, because you had clean animals that was needed for sacrifice, and also you had clean animals that were needed for food, for human consumption. All right, this is Leviticus chapter 11, and Leviticus chapter 11 is the law, the dietary law of the do's and don'ts, what to eat and what not to eat. So it says, Leviticus 11, and the Lord spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying unto them, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, these are the beasts, all right, animals, which you shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. So it's nothing wrong with eating meat. The Lord gave it, and he gave commandments as to which ones we could eat and which ones we couldn't eat. He said, whatsoever parteth the hoof, and if you don't know what the parting of a hoof is, it's the split in the hoof of animals. Some of them are clean and some of them are unclean. You could type in cloven foot or cloven foot and go to images and you'll see the cloven foot. Now the pig has cloven foot, but he's unclean, and it's going to explain why. Nevertheless, these shall, I'm going to read that again. Whatsoever part of the hoof and is cloven footed, and cheweth the cud, and also, the hoof, parts of the hoof, and cheweth the cud, meaning when a particular animal chews the cud, they chew the grass, swallow it down. I believe there's a separate stomach it goes into, and it goes through a process, and it comes back up, then they chew it again and swallow it down. That's called chewing the cud. It says, among the beasts that shall you eat. So if it parts the hoof, it's cloven footed, and it cheweth the cud, that's clean. You can eat that. Nevertheless, these shall you not eat of them that chew the cud, because you have some animals out there that do chew the cud, or of them that divide the hoof, and you do have some that divide the hoof, right? But they have to do both in order for you to be able to eat it. Just like fish. Fish, if it only has scales, you can't eat it. If it only has fins, you can't eat it. If it doesn't have either one of them, you can't eat it. Just like you have shellfish, you can't eat shellfish, oysters, lobsters, and all that, because it doesn't have fins and scales. It has to have fins and scales in order for it to be lawful. So it goes on to say, as the camel, because he cheweth the cud. So the camel does chew the cud, but divideth not the hoof. He is unclean to you. So the Lord has given you animals that you could eat and animals that you can't eat. So where are these individuals getting this idea that you can't eat meat when the Lord said you can eat it? It says, and the coney, which is another form of a rabbit, like you have badgers, you have different, I guess you could throw possums and things like that in there, of that type, of that family line, because the Lord made every cattle of after their like. It says, because he cheweth the cud, just like rabbits chew the cud, but divideth not the hoof. He is unclean unto you. Yeah, the camel, the coney, the rabbits, they have soft paws, right? It says, and the hare, which is a rabbit, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. So the Lord is telling you what you need to know of these particular animals, so you can either eat or avoid. Then it says, and the swine, which is Jake's favorite meal to dine on, and the swine, though he divide the hoof, because they do have cloven foot, they part the hoof and they're cloven footed, and be cloven footed, yet he cheweth not the cud, he is unclean to you. So there's a science, so to speak, to that. So there's a reason why there's a dietary law as to animals you could eat, fish you could eat, and birds that you could eat, and even creeping things that you could eat. And there was a certain thing that they had to have in order for you to be able to eat them, and that's how you could distinguish the clean from the unclean. So why is there going to be a dietary law in the Bible of clean and unclean animals, clean and unclean birds, clean and unclean fish, clean and unclean creeping things, if we can't eat those things? See? And and what happens too, Jake, a lot of times is over righteous. They go overboard on certain things. Now, when we go to in the book of Genesis, we go to the history of Isaac. When Isaac was old, what did he ask Esau for? He asked him for some savory venison. What is venison? Venison is deer meat. So if you couldn't eat meat, why did Isaac ask Esau for venison meat? And then when his mother heard it, what did she do? She had Jacob go to the stall and get a kid. It could have been a lamb, or it could have been a goat. She took it up, cut it up, seasoned it up, cooked it up, savory, and boom, brought it to Isaac. And he ate it. So he must eat either lamb or goat. But he wanted venison, which shows you that they kind of taste similar. So why did he eat that? Now, when YAHAWASHI and the two angels showed up to Abraham, I know that he had cooked bread. I believe it said that they prepared some type of kid or lamb or something. I can't remember the story. Brothers could correct me on the comment board if I'm wrong on it. You know, but I believe he prepared some type of meat for them outside of the bread and the things that they brought before them. You know, you would have like parched corn and, you know, different things that they had back then. You know, and wine, you know, to keep you, you know, like an appetizer, so to speak, prior to the meal being cooked, because back then, unlike now, they didn't have drive-thrus. You know, you on your Camelback, you know, and you say, oh snap, there goes a Wendy's. I think I'm gonna go get me, you know, a lamb burger. Here it is, you waiting at the window, and the people are taking your order, and you come around, you pay them with shekels, and they give you a bag of lamb nuggets, you know, and French fries. That wasn't back then. When you got a meal, you had to wait. And the meal took a long time to cook, because you had to kill the animal, drain the blood, peel off the skin, wash it real good, chop it up into the pieces that you had to chop it up, and start cooking it. That took a long process. Everything was made from scratch. Bread was made from scratch. You wasn't on no Camel, you know what I'm saying? Oh, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Yeah, let me get some GMO nuggets. Nah, you know? None of that, you know? All right, so now let's go from there. So like, I wasn't trying to be funny, but hey, you gotta have a little levity. All right, so now let's go to the law on the Passover. It's the book of Exodus. So you guys out there, stop being over righteous, man. Scripture say, you know, don't be over righteous. Why should thou destroy thyself? You know? Now, if that's your thing, plant-based, get down, James Brown. But don't, you know, don't look down on brothers that eat meat. And likewise, you brothers that, you know, snacking on them lamb burgers, don't look down on brothers that are plant-based. But I advise you brothers that's plant-based, be careful with them Impossible meats and Beyond Burger stuff, you know. Don't turn into no soy boy, you know, because a lot of that stuff is all made out of soy. Soy protein, you know, soy lecithin, soy this, soy that, you know. And too much soy does not bring you joy, because it contains high amounts of estrogen, you know. So I'm just leave it at that. And I'm pretty sure you can find the same thing with brothers that eat meat and different things that they eat, you know. Yeah, well, they won't go past Genesis 1:29 because they don't accept the whole book. So that means that they're taking away from the book. The Lord said He's going to take away from them. Noah, what does it mean, divideth not? In other words, you got to look it up. You know, you got to look it up. When scriptures speak about dividing the hoof, you know, or the division of it is when you have that it looks like a triangular open in front of the hard. It's like a hard shell almost that the animal stands on, and then this part here is cut open like that, and nothing is here. It's almost like going under a bridge. But then parted not the hoof would be like a horse. A horse has hoofs, but their hoofs are not parted. Their hoofs are hard, you know. And you know, you brothers got to look stuff up, man. You know, you can't be lazy either. You know, look up cloven footed. You know, look up non-cloven footed. You know, don't wait for us to do all the work for you. You got to put in work too. Do your research. Things weren't handed to us back then. A lot of you guys, not getting on you particularly, you know, I'm just saying in general, a lot of you guys wouldn't have made it back then. Oh, I got to go to the library and look that up? Oh, hell no. And then it's easy because everything is handed to y'all now. Everything is on the web. Everything is on the net. But a lot of you are just fucking lazy. And like I said, I'm not directing it to you specifically. I'm just saying in general. A lot of you are fucking lazy, man. You don't want to look stuff up. Look it up. We didn't learn, like earlier today, I forgot what a coney was. So I had to go look it up just to make sure that I was on point when I break this down. That's what's called what's the word I'm looking for? Proofreading, you know, because you break something down, you want to know what the hell you're talking about. So sometimes you got to go back, you know, because you forget this. There's so much stuff in the scripture, you forget some stuff. So you got to go back and you got to, you know, do a refreshers course, you know. All right, so let's go to Exodus chapter 12, and let's go to verses 3 to 5. Let's start there. So this is Exodus 12 and 3. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, because only the Israelites are supposed to eat the Passover, saying, in the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb. What's a lamb? And it's not talking about no plant-based lamb either. You know, the main ingredient is soy isolate, protein, you know. It says, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house, because a lamb was something that was supposed to be eaten at the Passover. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. So you're going to be eating this particular lamb. So it says, your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out of the sheep or from the goats, so you can eat meat. If you are an Israelite and you don't go outside of Genesis, the first chapter and the 29th verse, you know, for your diet, and you using that to justify that you could only eat plant-based foods and not meat, you're going off, man. I don't care how prolific you are, you're going off, because the meat is given to eat. Salakia. All right, so let's get it. Let's go. It says, now we're gonna jump down to the 8th verse. It says, and they shall eat the flesh of who? Of that lamb or of that goat in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat not of it raw, because you're not supposed to eat no raw meat, because remember there's blood in there. Nor sodden at all with water, you're not supposed to boil it, you're supposed to just roast it with fire. But roast with fire his head with his legs and with the pertinence thereof, because you were supposed to roast the whole lamb. You know, if you got it like that, you could do it that way. And you shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, and that which remaineth of it until the morning you shall burn with fire. Right? It says, and thus shall you eat it. Eat what? The lamb or the goat, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. Yeah, because you're not supposed to treat it like a lamb dinner, because that night was a night that we had to eat fast, because we had to move fast. All right? So this is, and when you read through this, it says that this is a statute throughout all your generations. So how do these guys that only justify eating meat, only justify eating plant-based things, keep the Passover? Unless they don't deal with the Passover, which they're going off, because they're taken away from the word. The scriptures say, take not away, neither add, lest the Lord reprove thee, and thou be found a liar. Just like we're finding out right now, that these guys that are teaching that are being found out to be liars. All right, now let's go to the Apocrypha. Let's go to the book of Ecclesiasticus, the 36th chapter, and the 18th verse. It says, the belly devoureth all meats. This is talking about actual meats. Yet is one meat better than another. Well, it didn't say it was actual meat, or lamb, or whatever. What it says, as the palate tasted divers kinds of venison. What is venison? Venison is meat, deer meat. So doth an heart of understanding false speeches. So there's nothing wrong with eating meat. But now, in the case of eating meat, you also have to be careful. Ecclesiastes 37 and 29. Be not unsatiable in any dainty thing. Dainty things are things that are fat. You know, like you know, you have French fries and you have white rice and, you know, just different things that are cakes and cookies, especially cakes and cookies and ice cream and things like that. Those things are extremely fat, and that's why you see Jake out there obese, because they like the sweetness of things. You know, their plate is mostly meat and starches. Meat and starches. Barely do they put any greens, and if they do put greens on their plate, they got to be cooked with smoked ham hocks or some shit like that. You know, and that's why Jake has such a terrible sicknesses, because of their terrible diet. And the scriptures guide us on what to do, what to eat, what not to eat, and how to balance it out. It says, be not unsatiable in dainty things, nor too greedy upon meats. Yeah, because eating of too much meat causes sickness. It says, for excess of meat, excess. It didn't say meat. It says excess of meat bringeth sickness. So too much meat is not good, because meat is acidic. That's why you balance it out with your greens, with your vegetables. You know, it says, and surfeiting will turn into cola. Yeah, that's where people get cancer, they get sicknesses. You know, their stomach starts to turn. You know, they start throwing up because their diet is not balanced. You know, with putting, or at least trying to put something better in the tank. You know, it says, but by surfeiting have many perished, but he that taketh heed prolongeth his life. Yeah, because you're going to have care for your diet. And there's another one that says that, I don't know where that's at offhand, but it does say that, you know, he taketh care of his diet. You know, if you are a wise man, a prudent man, you know, taketh care of the diet. You know. Yep, Jake has a very poor diet plan. You're right about that, my brother. All right, now let's go back. Now we're going to go to 1 Corinthians 6 and 13. And I mean, the point is pretty much made already, but I'm just going to read a couple of these precepts since I got them down. You know, because this is one that came to mind. I had to find this one. 1 Corinthians 6:13. It says, meats for the belly and the belly for meats. So meats are made for the belly, but too much of it is not good. It says, meats for the belly and the belly for meats, but the Most High shall destroy both it and them. Now the body is not for fornication, but the Lord and the Lord, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. Yeah, because at the end of the day, you know, you eat too much, you know, or you despise somebody that doesn't eat meat. That's not good either. You have to be careful for that. You know, you have to be careful with that, should I say. And just like a brother that does eat, Sirach 30 and 25, let me see. I've been waiting for that. (30 and 25). A cheerful and good heart will have a care for his meat and diet. Yeah, because too much meat will mess you up. So you'll have a care for your diet, and that will cause a cheerful countenance, because people that are sick, that you can see their countenance is not cheerful. You know? But when you have a balance in what you eat and things of that nature, you see the cheerful countenance in the people's faces. All right, so now let's go from there. Oh, let me look up this word meats. Okay, cool, it's gone. I thought my was messed up. This is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 13. Meats. Let me see what it says here. The word is broma. That which is eaten, food. Food, literally or figuratively, especially ceremonial articles allowed or forbidden by the Jewish law. Meats, victuals, yeah. So meats are allowed by the law, but it has to be a lawful meat. It has to be lawful meat. All right, now let's go from there to the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 10, same book, chapter 10, verse 25. This is what the Apostle Paul said, and the Apostle Paul is on point. Whatsoever is sold in the shambles that eat, asking no question for conscience sake. So now let's look up this word shambles. What does shambles mean? What does that mean? Because you have shambles even to this very day. So let's go back to 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 25. And we go to the word shambles. The word there is makelon, a place where meat and other articles of food are sold. Meat market. You know? I mean, that's plain. I don't know how much plainer I can make it. And if you don't accept these scriptures, then you off. You bugged out. Now let's go to Romans 14 and 1. This is, like I said, those of you that eat meat, don't look down on those that don't eat meat. Those of you that don't eat meat, don't look down on those that eat meat. And those of you that do not eat meat, you have to eat meat on the Passover or you're going off. You're not keeping the Passover. I don't give a damn how savory that plant-based lamb is. It's not lamb. You're trying to play the Most High cheap. Remember what he did to Cain for trying to play the Lord cheap? Matter of fact, let me get this real quick in the book of Malachi. Those of you that want to play with the Lord. Because Jake is always trying to find some kind of wiggle room. You know, they think they got the corner, the market cornered, you know, because they think they slick. You think you're more slicker than the one that created slickness? Malachi 1 and 14. It says, but cursed be the deceiver, which hath in his flock a male, and voweth and sacrifices unto the Lord a corrupt thing. For I am a great king, saith the Lord YAHAWASHI of hosts, and my name is dreadful among the heathen. So you can't vow and sacrifice unto the Lord a corrupt thing. You know, you got to be careful in what you and how you moving in this thing. All right, so now this is the last. Well, this is one of the last precepts I have. Romans 14 and 1. Him that is weak in the faith, receive ye, but not to doubtful disputations. For one believeth that he may eat all things. Yeah, because you have brothers that can eat meats, you know, and they'll eat the vegetables. Then you also have those that can eat actual spiritual meat. So this is twofold. Another who is weak eateth herbs. Yeah, because when you're sick, you eat herbs. And sometimes an individual might be sick, or he might have cancer, and then he might turn to a plant-based diet and recover from it, and they might want to stay on that plant-based diet. There's nothing wrong with that. That's totally up to you. It says, let not him that eateth, the ones that eat meat, despise him that eateth not. See, just because you eat meat and another brother doesn't eat it, you can't despise that brother. It says, and let not him which eateth not, you plant-based brothers, sisters, judge him that eateth. So you can't judge a brother because he eats meat and you don't. I don't care what your reasoning is. It says, for the Most High hath received him. Just like he received you, you eat plant-based. The brother that eats meat, the Lord received him. He eats meat. But you plant-based brothers and sisters out there, you're going to have a problem when it comes down to keeping the Passover. Because if you don't eat lamb on the Passover, you're not keeping the Passover. That lamb is a representation of YAHAWASHI. So is the unleavened bread. So is the wine. So are the bitter herbs. And there's no substitute. The Lord didn't say, and thus, if you are a plant-based individual, you know, make sure you go to the supermarket, you know, go to the poultry or the produce aisle, or the meat aisle, or should I say the produce aisle, and get you some plant-based lamb, you know, because Purdue will make plant-based lamb in the future. You know, such and such will make plant-based lamb in the future. So you don't have to eat the actual lamb. Come on, man. So now let's go to the last precept I have on this topic. This is 1 Timothy 4 and 3. This is what it says. Forbidding to marry and commanding to abstain from meats. See? Which the Most High has created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth. So you can't be trying to make brothers abstain from keeping meat. And those of you that are doing that, you know, you have people out there that's not into eating plant-based. And they feel that they're going off because they're eating meat. And they can't give the meat up. And they can't be plant-based like you guys are plant-based. So you're wounding that person's conscience. And the Lord's going to deal with you. You know? So after watching this video, if you don't get it, it's not meant for you. You know? But like I said, you brothers and sisters out there that are plant-based, that don't eat meat, there's nothing wrong with that, but you're going to run into a problem when it comes down to keeping the Passover. Because the Lord is specific. He said you have to eat either lamb or goat. So what are you going to do? You know? So pretty much that's been it, you know, concerning meats. I pray that this was an edifying lesson and that it answered the brother's question. And what I want to say to that brother is, you know, I hope you're not one of those brothers out there that's bouncing from camp to camp, listening to this camp, listening to that camp, listening to the other camp, because you're going to end up getting confused. And if you get confused by doing that, we've told you time and time again, don't listen to these different camps. Don't come back to us and try to get us to untangle your tangled mind. If you get caught up in that stuff, because we're telling you not to do it. Build up your foundation first, and then when you're able to go and listen to these different camps, you know, to be able to distinguish the madness from the truth, then that's a different story. And I'm saying that in general, you know. So with that, I pray that you brothers and you few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say shalom.